Alright guys, welcome back to Marshall Remodel. This is going to be part 2 of a furnace AC split system installation. This is going to cover hooking up your main power to your furnace, getting your condensate lines ran, getting your gas hooked up, and getting your venting hooked up. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to start out by hooking up our electric, and during the rough-in electric of this build, they ran the power to this box right here. So this is a circuit just for the furnace, and this right here is the box where the wires power the furnace, come out of the furnace to power. And this can either be on either side. It can either stay here or you can move it over here. If you need it on the opposite side, you just pop that plug out, move this over here, and then put that plug in this hole. So I got it hooked up on this side. I mounted a metal box right here. I got a grounding screw in there, so I'll put a grounding wire on there. All my grounds will get hooked together, the neutrals get hooked together, and then this is going to be a switch. So my power in will get hooked to the bottom of the switch, and my power to the furnace will get hooked here. And then I just use some armored cable, and I like to use holes and screws that are already in the furnace so I don't somehow damage something. So I just take that screw out, put a clamp, took that screw out, put a clamp, that screw, and then this goes up and will get hooked in there and then mounted right there. So my power will come out, go down to the switch, and that's how it's going to work. So I'm just going to get this the rest of the way hooked up, and then we'll move on to the next portion. So this is pretty easy. This is a dedicated circuit. I have a 20 amp circuit, but it's only for the furnace. Alright, so all I'm doing here is extending the wires that end here over to the switch box on the side of the furnace. So I do use Wagos. Some places allow them, some don't. They're clear, and you can see that your wire is set all the way to the end. You want it all the way in the end, and then you want to give it a little tug. And as long as you do that, I've had really good success with these. So it's kind of personal preference. The only time you really can't use Wagos is if you have stranded wire. Now if you put some solder on the end of your stranded wire, then they'll push in there really easy. Otherwise, I'll just use wire nuts. Alright guys, so we have just a single toggle switch. Got a grounding wire on it. Metal box has a grounding screw. This is the ground coming from the feed wire, and then this is the ground coming from the furnace. So we need to hook all those together. I'm going to use a wire nut for this. So I'll get all the solid cores together, twist them together, and then I'll put a wire nut on with the stranded wire. Now we'll hook the neutrals together. Alright, so this is my feed wire, so that's going to get hooked to the bottom. That's my power into the switch. And then this is my wire coming from the furnace. And that's it for the wiring. So this is already wired into the breaker. The breaker is still off. This is an on-off switch. So if you're doing any maintenance or anything like that, you can just shut this off and you can cut power to the unit versus having to go all the way to the panel and shut off the breaker. So this is really nice for maintenance and safety and stuff like that. So this is all done, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, now that I got that electric done, one thing I wanted to mention, I appreciate all the comments. I don't know who it was, but somebody mentioned that I would probably want to remove the horizontal drain pan from the unit for maximum efficiency. So I went ahead and removed that. It was really easy. I just took off these access panels right here, and then it actually lets that whole A coil slide out. And then I could just, there's one little clip that held it in, and then I popped it out. So the only thing I have to do is get some plugs to go over here, which I'll order. If they don't come before I get the unit up and running, I'll just cover this with some metal and tape. I appreciate that tip and that information. I want this to run at max efficiency, so it was easy enough to take it out, and so I did it. So I appreciate any comments or suggestions based on your experience and knowledge. That's how we all learn. That's how I've learned how to do a lot of this stuff. I received my auxiliary drain pan, so I went ahead and slid that in. It was pretty easy to do. I left the 2 back feet on, took the 2 front out, slid it in as far as I could, then removed the back 2 and slid the pan all the way to the back. So just keep in mind, anytime you install a unit over a finished floor, you should have an auxiliary drain pan. All right, guys, now we're going to do all of the condensate drain lines for the furnace. And whatever unit you have, your installation instructions will basically lay this out exactly the way this needs to be. But I'll go ahead and show you how I ran my drain lines and explain to you why I did what I did. All right, so this will hook up to the built-in trap on this furnace. This furnace has one that's already built in, so I have to prime that before I hook. This tube will go from there to there. So what I do is I just take a glass with a straw and fill that up. That saves me from taking all this off. So that's primed. Now we can cut this to length and get that hooked up to there. And then it'll go down through here and into my main drain. This is a little over 1/4 inch per foot drop, so plenty of drop. And then right here, this is where that coupling that comes on the intake will have a flexible line that comes off of it that collects any condensation that could possibly come in through the intake, and it'll come down and drop into here and also go out. I'm going to run 1.5 inches around the back side and up here, and that will drain the A coil. All of the primary drain done. Comes out of the lower port of the A coil. I got to clean out up here, so if this was ever to get clogged, I could just take this cap off and clean it out. I put unions here and here, so I can always take this out if I have to get into the side of this and I need to remove this for some odd reason, or somebody else does. They just have to take these unions off, and then they can spin this out, and then all of this can come off without having to cut anything or anything like that. So this is a vent tee, which you're required to have. All right, guys, I got one of these safety switches for the higher of the 2 drain ports. So we'll put that in, and it's just a 2-wire installation. It's a little float. It detects if this gets clogged and the water comes up here, it'll raise this float and then shut the air conditioner off so you don't have any damage. This is a pretty easy installation. You just
put the 3/4 inch fitting in there, glue your 90 on, and then set your float switch in there. There's 2 wires that come off, and you can either break your red or yellow wire coming from your thermostat to your furnace. And if you are putting this in conjunction with any other switches, you want to wire them in series.
All right, so now we need to convert this to LP because I run an LP. This has orifices in it for natural gas and springs. So before I hook my gas line up and everything, I need to take these 2 screws and these 2 screws out. That'll allow this to come out, and then I can change the orifices are in there. These are the LP ones. And then I need to take these, the low and high pressure screw covers off, and replace the springs. And if you can see right here, it says high and low. So I got the covers off. Now I got to unscrew these little plastic caps, and then the springs are inside. So I'll remove the natural gas springs and put in the LP springs, which are white. So I got that little plastic cap off. Alright, so there is the natural gas one. Grab an LP one.
You just take a flat-headed screwdriver and get that little spring pushed back in there. And then when you put this adjustment cap back in, be very careful you don't cross thread. It's plastic, and if you don't get it in there right, you can easily damage it. And then your manual should tell you, depending on your furnace, approximately how many turns in will get you close to the desired pressure rating.
12. So that's just going to get me close. So now we're going to remove the low pressure side, and then that's 8 turns when I put it back in. I got those in there. We'll put our little caps back on, and then when we fire this first time up, we'll hook a manometer up to this and get those dialed in perfectly where they're supposed to be. So you can see now that it's out, that's all they are. Those have to come out, and the LP ones have to go in. Alright, so we're getting the gas line installed, and so I come out of my gas valve, I have a street 90 into a T, and then this is my low pressure switch. And this is what will shut the furnace down if the gas pressure gets below a certain point, so it won't keep trying to fire. So now that I got that installed, all I got to do, it comes with a wiring harness. So it only goes on one way. So this wiring harness will plug into here. This will come out, plug into here, and then these leads get attached onto the pressure switch. So that's all we got left to have that installed, and then I can finish out the rest of my gas line here. Guys, got our gas line coming in, got shut off, got our 2 psi to 11 inches water column regulator, got a union so we can get this all apart if we ever need to, got sediment trap, and then we're plumbed into the gas manifold. So I turned the gas on downstairs. I'm going to go ahead and check for leaks.
I use Dawn dishwater soap and water to look for leaks, and it's just an easy way for me to find them. You get really big bubbles if you have a gas leak, and they're easy to spot.
Alright guys, we got the intake and the exhaust, and I am going to do a fresh air intake even though I'm not required to on this unit. But I'm going to take these up. They're going to go through the wall right here, and that goes over into above the garage, and then I'm going to take it through the garage roof. That'll keep me from having to get on the roof of the house, which is like 30 feet. Alright, we're going to cut a hole in the roof for the vent. We're going to use a one-piece vent, so it's got the air intake and the exhaust kind of in one unit. So whenever I run anything through a metal roof that's just metal, I make a box like this. So I got 3/4 inch plywood, so I subtract that from a 2x4, so I cut 2x4s at 2 3/4. This is 22.5, so it'll fit between the girts. And then I screw this in, so when I'm screwing my seal on through the roof, it's going into something really solid. So now I'm just going to run my pipes through here and kind of figure out where I need that. Alright, so now we're going to glue the bottom of this together and stick it up through. Get it strapped down here so it stays, and then we'll go up and seal all that. Alright guys, I got the hole cut in the roof, got the pipe stuck through there, so now we're going to take our seal and we're going to go put it up there. I'm going to use flexible caulk to seal this all off, and then every inch there will be a screw. So a lot of screws, but after that I'll come through with some polyurethane sealant around the edge just to make sure we got it good. And then as an added protection over this, I will slide this secondary boot over. Alright guys, so that butyl tape or flexible caulk is under this. All these screws are going to that 3/4 inch plywood. And then there's the extra sealant around the edge just for extra protection. Got the secondary boot. This is a concentric vent. So if you come out a roof, you have to put a down drop, otherwise water will go in there. So this is the finished product right here. And I like to take a little piece of wire, put in there so like birds or anything like that can't get in there. Another thing, keep in mind, instead of gluing this right here, I take screws and I'll screw this on. That way if I ever need to get this off for some reason, I can just pop these screws off. There's 3 of them, and then I can get this off, and if I need to clean anything, I can. So just something to think about. Got the exhaust here and the intake here. And the furnace is right on the other side of that wall, so we only have, I don't know, maybe 10 feet of actual pipe. Alright guys, now that that spray foam is cured, I got this roughed in. And I know I've said this in other videos, but when you're going to hook these pipes up, I make lines on my pipe and my fittings, so when I take it off to glue it, it all lines back up perfectly. So we're going to go ahead and glue this all in, and if I ever need to take this apart, I can just cut it here and put a rubber boot in. It's not a big deal, but I'm just going to pipe it all the way for now. Alright guys, so all this piping's done. I'm pretty much ready to fire up the furnace portion. This will get connected to the intake, but I gotta wait for that special boot, but I can still get it fired up and adjusted. So that's gonna be a wrap on part 2 of the furnace and AC install. Next part will be hooking up your thermostat
and wiring in your safety switches. And then we'll also fire up the furnace and get the gas valve adjusted for proper pressure for the high and low end. So we appreciate you guys watching. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and we will catch you on the next video.